Recording in.
Welcome everyone to the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees meeting for Monday, November 4th, 2024. I will call the meeting to order at exactly 7:30 p.m. Before we go into the public comment period, there's a statement I would like to read. If you're not aware, we had a brush fire here in the village last Friday. So I want to thank all the fire departments that bravely participated in battling the brush fire along East Shore Drive on Friday, November 1st, including all of the Tompkins County fire departments, plus the nearby fire departments, including Genoa, Locke, Homer, Cortlandville, and Virgil, along with the New York State Forest Rangers. It was a scary fire. Several responders suffered minor injuries or exhaustion from their efforts on those slopes, and I wish them a speedy and complete recovery. Also, I want to thank our DPW staff who worked until around 3:30 that morning, responding to the water main break at Pembroke and Cayuga Heights Road. That was caused by the volume and force of the firefighting water usage. So they stayed until that was fixed, and everyone else had pretty much left. Today, Lynn Leopold, John Courtney, Chris Savosky, Deborah, and I met with Jonathan Negley, Angela Hinnickel, and Andrew Stradler from the Tompkins County Soil and Water Conservation Department to determine if and how the Soil and Water Department could assist with public and private repairs to the ground cover in the burned areas along East Shore Drive. We walked, we went down to Cayuga Hills, and we could kind of see from a distance the burn. Lynn Leopold invited us over to her property. We parked on it and walked up into a pretty significant burn area. The damage was not nearly as severe as I thought it would be, judging by the photos that you probably have seen online. It pretty much was just burning the leaves that were on the ground, because a lot of them had fallen on from those old trees, and it was just like a grass fire. It went so fast. Some of the trees were damaged, but it was not nearly as bad. But the soil and water conservation people think that they can do some hydro seed in certain spots, and they're working to see if there are volunteers who can come in from the county side, possibly, or private, to come in and help Lynn reposition some of her old fallen trees so that the water won't rush down the slope and wash some of the topsoil away. So they're kind of working on what the solutions would be to that. And before our meeting started, I wanted to thank everyone who was involved. It was a very rapid response, and it was an amazing effort, and pretty much it was a multi-county exercise. So my thanks go out to all of them. So with that, I will go to our first agenda item, which is to open our public comment period. And is there anyone in the room or online who would like to speak in public comment? Don Hartill.
The reason I'm here is precisely because of that fire. And I want to echo the thank you for the neighbors that, in fact, the Mao, it came within 50 feet of his house. Very nice house at the end of Twin Glens Road.
It was very close.
My house, you could smell, I mean, the smoke was pretty awful. Several people came from down there and stayed with Tom and Pat O'Rourke until things got calmed down.
Good.
As far as I know, Walter and Jen were not there, but the fire people did get in the house. They did run a hose to bypass this hydrant problem and provide most of the water that kept the fire in there. There were actually four fires altogether.
Right.
And it's not clear exactly what caused them. One rumor is that it was a muffler dragging It's a little hard for me to believe that a spark would last that long to go over and set the leaves on fire, but here we are.
I wondered about that too, but seeing the leaves, if there were leaves gathered by the side of the road and they were driving pretty fast, I guess it could have sparked a leaf or something. I don't know,
And it's really hard to get a fire started, actually.
with just a spark.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was an unusual start pattern where there were multiple places where small fires started.
Places altogether. And one was the big one that came up.
Yeah,
You know, I own a old antique cabin in the woods, and so I was clearly very concerned about that.
yeah.
But the response was really great,
It was.
really impressive.
Another thing I want to impress on everyone is that Tompkins County Department of Emergency Response and the county have a siren system. If you sign up for the siren system, you'll get notifications. Deborah and I had seen several fire trucks go down 13, thinking, oh, it's just a fire somewhere, it's a normal fire. But then 10 minutes later, another group of 2 or 3 fire engines went by, and then a third engine. And within that time period, we got a siren notification that there was a fire on East Shore Drive.
There were I think three fire trucks down at the end of Twin Glens Road. There were 3 or 4 on Cuga Hills Road. And I think there was 1 or 2 down the other one between Cuga Hills and
It's a big effort, so.
And there was an ambulance sitting there till after midnight when I finally went to bed.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to see.
One good thing about the siren system is that I signed up on Friday, and the response is then, it was immediate, you don't have to wait for any kind of.
Oh, good, I wasn't.
So I signed up when I was on the phone with you. Good. And then the next one, like, I got one like 10 minutes later, so it's not like you have to like get processed if you sign up on an event night, like I did, you'll get immediate response.
The other thing that's true is that we've had half the rainfall in both September and October compared to normal. The leaves in my yard, in the woods that I am responsible for and own part of it, are dry as tinder, and anything will generate the same problem again. And we're just very lucky that the wind was not strong.
Yes. Yeah, it was, we were fortunate, in an unfortunate circumstance, we were fortunate that this could be responded.
Could have been much worse.
Could have been much worse. I have always had a concern if something like that started, as some of the fires have done out in the southwest and the northwest of the United States, is that we're such a forested area, underbrush and so forth, it would be bad news. But anyway, it was a good effort by everyone, and it was greatly appreciated. So, and I'm glad everything is good with you. Yeah, I didn't realize how close the fire was to houses. I was thinking, because from Lynn Leopold's house, she still had probably another 100 yards.
That's at least 100 yards.
But then, when we were walking through her property, I looked up and there was that home at the end of Twin Glens, and it was 25, 30 feet from the edge of where the fire stopped. So it wouldn't have been many more minutes before it would have gone into their property and their home, so.
They got in their car and drove up to the end of Twin Glens, up to the intersection. And we're sitting there and.
Oh, that's why I invited them in, okay.
And finally, Tom, I guess, went out and said, well, come on in.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Our neighbors are supporting each other, so anyway. Anything else, Tom?
The sewer line is in. I'm probably going to get hooked up at least one of my properties before the end of the year.
Good deal.
It's really nice to see that. They did an absolutely great job on both the installation and the paving and fixing my driveway so that the car doesn't bottom out when there's quite a hump getting up out of it.
A new hump?
Yeah, right. John and company took care of that, so.
Yeah.
They did a very nice job.
Good, glad to hear that too. Anything else?
Nice to be here.
Good to have you back, and you're welcome to sit through the rest of our meeting if you're
Oh, yeah.
interested.
Yeah, I thought you came for this. Do you want to take a look?
This is for the sewer rates and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to that.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Is there anyone online who would like to speak at public comment?
I'm Lorraine Capagrossi, and I'm the liaison for the planning board this month.
Thank you, Lorraine. Anyone else? Hearing none or seeing none, I will move to close the public comment period.
second.
Wolfgang seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next order of business is to approve 3 of our minutes from 3 meetings in October. On October 7th, Carolyn was absent, so we will have to approve those at least independently. So I will move that we approve the draft minutes from October 7th, 2024. Susan seconds. Is there any discussion about those minutes? Yeah, all of those in favor of approving the October 7th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And the next minutes,
I abstain.
sorry, Carolyn abstains. The October 7th and 21st meeting, we were all there. Carolyn, however, was there by Zoom. So we could group the October 17th and October 21st meeting minutes together. So I will move those 2 sets of minutes.
Second.
Susan seconds. Is there any discussion about either of those 2 minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from October 17th and October 21st, 2024, say aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, we've got some public hearings to schedule for changes to our 4 of our local laws. So I will move to set the public hearing for proposed local law D 2024, amendment to Village of Lansing Code, Chapter 129, taxation, Article 2, senior citizens tax exemption for Monday, November 18th at 7:35 PM.
Second.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Is there any discussion about this? All those in favor of setting that public meeting for the 14th at 7:35, say aye.
18th.
Sorry?
18th.
Sorry, I wrote 14th. November 18th meeting at 7:35 PM, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next public hearing would be for proposed local law E 2024, amendment to Village of Lansing Code, Chapter 129, taxation, Article 3, alternative veterans tax exemption. I will move that we set that public hearing for November the 18th at 7:40 PM.
Second.
Susan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor of setting the public hearing for the 7:40 PM on October, I'm trying to say a different month now, November 18th, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. This year's moving too fast. The third one is to set a public hearing for proposed local law F 2024, amendment to Village of Lansing Code, Chapter 129, taxation, Article 4, disabled persons with limited incomes tax exemption. I would move that we set that public hearing for November the 18th at 7:45 PM.
Second. Sorry.
Susan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And our last one is to set a public hearing for proposed local law G 2024, amendment to Village of Lansing Code, sewer rents. I move that we set that public hearing for November the 18th at 7:50 PM.
Second.
Thank you, Wolfgang. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That takes care of that agenda.
And just a question, is Jay Franklin going to be attending that? No. Okay.
If you have any questions, send them to me.
All right, our next topic is to discuss the future plans for the expansion of the Village of Cayuga Heights wastewater treatment plant. This past Tuesday, October 29th, Ruth Croft and I met with Linda Woodard, Brett Cross, and Rich Robinson from the Village of Cayuga Heights. And they were proposing future expansion projects, ideas, so that they could continue to serve. Pretty much Lansing's and town of Ithaca are the only ones right now that have any major developments. And if the wastewater treatment plant in the Village of Cayuga Heights exceeds its daily maximum flow, more than, I think it's 3 days, I'm not sure about the number of days, but if they exceed it multiple times within a 30-day window, the DEC will step in and potentially require that they set a moratorium on sewer rents or show any other type of activity that would bring the flow down. This has happened a few times in the past, and there was a period of time, and I know Don remembers this, when there actually was a moratorium. And that means that developers cannot continue with their development because they cannot have any sewer rents or sewer units installed on the property that would connect to our sewer lines. And the projects that they presented, I've given to you, I've given you the presentation, the details behind those slides, I can't give you the details, but generally, they're looking at the Remington Road bypass, creating a Remington Road bypass that would divert up to 1.6 million gallons per day at the wastewater treatment plant, and that cost is approximately $2 million. That is a very finger in the air type estimate, so it could be a little bit lower, it could be a lot higher, we just don't know. The other project was to expand their wastewater treatment plant. They were looking at potentially buying the property next to them, and they would request, I should say, that the participating municipalities help them purchase that property. It's currently listed for $700,000, and they're going to, I think, their starting bid would be about 400. That would then also include an additional $10 million of a new facility to be built on that property. None of these that I'm discussing are definite, they are possibilities. And I think they're looking for input from us, town of Lansing, and all the other group of 6 municipalities to come up with the final idea. The town of Ithaca bypass they discussed could divert some of the sewer flow from new projects that are coming into the northeast corner of the town of Ithaca over near the Arrowwood. Got the Arrowwood Street. That's, the cost is unknown there. The town of Ithaca is not certain they're going to do that, but it is a possibility, which would help divert some sewage from that area into the Ithaca area wastewater treatment plant. And their final project is one that has been ongoing for many years now, is to reduce our I&I, which is what the DEC currently focuses on and requires reporting of from our municipalities. And they estimate that it would cost about $250,000 per municipality, but it just depends on how much work is actually done of finding and then resolving the I&I. For I&I within the village, John and his crew, while they're out working or they're investigating an area to be worked on, they look for I&I. If they can resolve the I&I quickly, they do. If not, it would come back to us for a potentially larger capital project or require some of our our sewage fund, our sewer fund to repair. So I know that they found some over on Dart Drive as they were installing new lines, new stormwater, sewer, and changing the width of the road. And they did resolve. He said about a dozen. So I don't know how big they were, but every little bit helps. So I asked Linda at that time, I wanted to make it clear that the Village of Lansing would not undertake any of these projects on our own, as we did with the Klein Road bypass. That it has to be a proportional funding based upon municipalities' usage. I only think that's fair. It's not fair to come in and expect Village of Lansing / a town of Lansing to pay for all of it, because we're actually benefiting everyone on the system. So that was the reason I created the sheet, the spreadsheets that I sent you, and the one that you looked at, John. Let me do some explaining. This top table does not list every meter reading that they send me in a monthly report. It's only what I believe from what they said during the meeting, the meters that would reflect some input, some flow from the village. For some of these meters, it's not all of the flow, it's a portion of the flow, but I included the whole number just to give you an idea. And the percent of the total flow is basically everything below Klein Road down to the percent of total flow. Klein Road is in there, it's reported monthly. I just wanted you to see how much it has been used this year. The percentages, as I told you, these aren't scientifically accurate. I just wanted to give you an idea of what to expect. The total flow on that top table is the final number that they report at the wastewater treatment plant that they've processed. The one that was suspicious was the October 24, because it showed 27 million, roughly, gallons. And our percentage of that flow was 77%, which flagged me. I went into that month and added up all of the rows for all of the meters, and it was closer to 55 million. And I don't know why it was reported at 27. So that is an outlier.
Did you raise that to them?
I will, but for tonight's exercise, basically you see that we're fairly consistently around 50% up to 60%. So that's sort of where this one would be if it was about 55 million gallons. The bottom table was basically if we add 100 sewer units into the village, how many gallons per day or per month would we add to the flow down to the plant? And then what our percentage would be with the new total, which would be the total flow from the top table plus this new number of sewer unit flow. And then our percentages changed just a little bit. But I just wanted to get a confirmation as we add more and more and more units. Obviously, we're taking in more money for the village from sewer rents, but we're also putting more flow into the plant. And so, and right now, that's a concern. We will be adding, they're not all going to be added at once, but we're going to have probably a few years to grow our number of sewer units within the village, within our larger developments. At the same time, I think we need to start building up our sewer funds so that we can, when they do pull the trigger on whatever project we all decide, we will be able to contribute our part without taking
So
extreme action.
just to clarify, the way we contribute now is they set a rate for how much it costs for each 1,000 gallons of sewer. So it's not like we pay them, oh, that project's happening, okay, now we're gonna give you another $200,000. It's usually what they do is they increase the rate, and that's how they pay for everything. That's how it's been in the past.
It may or may not be this time. It may be treated like Klein Road, where they want municipalities to pay for it.
Is there any source of funds for these type of projects other than the municipality specifically, like grants?
There are
Or
grants.
state or federal?
Yeah, there are state grants.
There are state grants, there are federal grants. However, there have been limitations to people receiving grants if they do not have a certain percentage of their population as a disadvantaged community.
Right.
And there are no federally recognized disadvantaged communities anywhere in Tompkins County.
So there are no grants then?
Basically.
Okay, so there are not grants.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was thinking when you said that the DEC steps in, like, well, then do they also maybe have some kind of funding for,
No.
no? Okay,
That doesn't mean that they won't suggest something, but right now, I don't believe those suggestions are available.
The other comment that should be included in this is that the city wastewater treatment plant is also overflowing periodically. Not quite as bad as Cuba Heights, but if we have a heavy rain, the I&I is there and it overflows. I&I is the real problem.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's a problem that personally, I don't think we'll ever resolve, because as lines age, you put a new line in, there's still older lines that are aging, you're going to have significant breaks, especially in a community has an underground infrastructure that is as old as many of our municipalities are.
And Cuba Heights has the oldest,
Yes.
and is the biggest problem, actually.
Right. Not to hear them tell it.
Not to be outside this room, but it's true.
what was the vibe of the meeting in terms of,
Just, they want help in resolving the long-term solutions to the problem. And we do not have to decide tonight. The thing that I believe we have to be prepared to do is to continue to build up our sewer fund so that if we do have to come along and make an additional capital contribution to the program, we can do that and help them to help us be successful. But we won't just freely give them the money without significant input and some assurances that it's really going to solve the problem. So what I wanted to tell you is during the meeting, I asked questions, but there were 3 questions that I thought of when I came home and looked at the slideshow once Linda sent it to me. First of all, would opening the Klein Road bypass more often achieve the same result as building the Remington Road bypass? Because they're talking about using the Klein Road bypass, anything that we divert into the Ithaca Area Wastewater Treatment Plant, the cost is 3 times normal, because it's considered by the Ithaca Area Wastewater Treatment Plant to be I&I treatment. They're treating an overflow that we have not fixed, so it's 3 times the cost. And if we build the Remington Road bypass, you have the capital investment to build that line, the time and money and resources, plus everything that is diverted through that line will also be charged at 3 times the normal rate.
is it possible to have that corrected if you're saying it's not I&I?
This is the inter-plant agreement right now, and it's good for another 5 years.
So in 5 years, that could be,
It could be.
that could be an.
It could be more. They could say, we're
Out of your notes,
not going to allow anything in unless you pay 4 times or 5 times.
Oh, they're in the same financial trouble, exactly. In fact, probably worse, I think.
It's bigger, yeah. And so my thought was, if you're going to be paying that rate, and you're trying to not use the Klein Road bypass, why not just open it up, use it more, and see if that diversion is enough to alleviate the overflow at the Village of Cayuga Heights? You're gonna pay the same amount of money, but you will not have to have paid for the line.
Can you back up a little bit and explain, I didn't know that the Klein Road bypass is only intermittent use. Can you explain that?
It originally, it was set to be open all of the time, so if there was overflow, it would automatically run to the, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Don was very instrumental in building the Klein Road bypass for them. It was open all of the time. If the level of flow got to a certain point, it would start automatically going into the Klein Road bypass.
And then where would that go?
Ithaca Area Wastewater Treatment.
Okay.
And they would treat that. It was a way of alleviating the amount of volume that was hitting
Cayuga Heights.
Cayuga Heights.
Okay, and then what happens now?
And so what happens now is that they monitor like an extreme rain event, or it could be in the winter when there's snow melt and rain. They know that they're going to get hit with an overage. They will go open up the Klein Road bypass and allow it to flow in. They control when it does and when it does not go in.
And is that better or worse?
It's metered, first of all, so you pay 3 times as much.
So it's worse for us then?
Well, it's not clear.
Yeah, it's really.
Not at all clear. The other problem is, as I said, the Ithaca area plant is up against it too. And the third thing is that the Klein Road bypass only drains part of Cayuga Heights. It doesn't drain us. That's what this Remington Road bypass is all about.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Yeah, it's the Klein Road bypass is a different location, and it would divert most of the Lansing's flow, or, well,
In Remington?
the amount that's diverted would be mostly from Lansing's. So my second question is related to the first question, or is the Remington Road bypass needed in addition to the Klein Road? Is the volume so big that the Klein Road bypass cannot handle all of that overflow?
You're saying if you just kept it open all the
Yeah,
time?
well, you can't, it's not connected to the flow in the sense it's only serving part of Cayuga Heights.
Right. So if it cannot relieve the overflow, if it's not needed, I mean, if you need more pipe volume to handle the flow, the Remington Road might be necessary, but they didn't make that clear, and I didn't think to ask, but I'm waiting for the response.
But if both plants are having the same maximum problem, wouldn't it make sense to add on to the Cayuga Heights plant so they could do more?
Yes.
Because right now, someone's got to increase, either Ithaca or Village Cayuga Heights, so why wouldn't you increase Village Cayuga Heights and pay less?
The other solution is to have a campaign that says, look, don't throw all that water down your drain. And, certainly letting your toilet not shut down as it should.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, there are things that we could do, but the I&I problem has been an ongoing problem, and it just has not really resolved to the satisfaction of the DEC.
Well, we can't, I mean, it would be, worst case scenario is that development comes to a halt, because, again, people need homes. So the solutions that make the most sense are the volume increasing solutions rather than the bypass solutions.
Right. My third question was what would be the estimated annual cost of sending the excessive sewage flow into the wastewater Ithaca area treatment plant by Klein Road plus Remington Road bypasses, to get an idea of what would that annual 3 times charge be. They would have to estimate it, obviously, but they didn't say this. The thing that I've suggested to them in public meetings and privately is that we should potentially work multiple path solutions all at the same time, but that gets expensive. We're talking about 2 million plus 10 million plus 250,000. We're talking about expense. So But I agree that the long-term solution, they really need to expand that plant. They probably need to expand the Ithaca area wastewater treatment plant. Linda Woodard, the mayor, felt that the city could still handle our overflow, that they still have the capacity to take it on. Whether that's true or whether that changes down the road, I don't know, because Ithaca, city of Ithaca and town of Ithaca are looking at their own developments, which are going to add more.
Exactly.
I'm sorry?
It's exactly right, and it's the same percentage, roughly, and maybe even more for the town of Ithaca.
Yeah. So I just wanted to prepare you all to be thinking about this. Our budget cycle is going to be coming up at the beginning of the year. Our normal way of the Village of Cuyahoga Heights getting money from us to pay for their improvements and projects is with the billings. However, these projects might require an extra bump of cash from us. Not sure, just be prepared, be thinking.
With regard to budget, is there anything that we could budget that is I&I repair specific? Like, is there anything that's gonna be like, you said John kind of fix it when he finds it kind of thing? Is there anything we could do that's bigger than that to find I&I?
There is a company that Linda is looking at for Village of Cuyahoga Heights that wants to set up a much more accurate system of meters. It's sort of, they kind of carpet the Village of Cuyahoga Heights manholes or openings into the system. And they have to set these meters up and run them for extended period of time, so they have to pick the right month when the rainfall or the snow melt comes. They set up all of these meters, and they can tell from the meters, which are supposedly much more accurate than our current meters, where the extra flow is coming from and how much. However, it's untried in this area. I don't know, and it's fairly expensive. I think she said $250,000 for a 1 month monitoring. And if you have to go to additional weeks or months because you didn't get the rainfall, then you're adding.
You can also do a partial of that. Teledyne, for example, heater that is around $5,000 or $6,000 that I've been looking at for our stuff when I was heavily involved in it. But that kind of thing where you have some clue where things are happening anyway.
Yeah.
So you can then instrument those specifically. I mean, we have one manhole where the new Taco Bell is going in that has been problematic. And so I tried to get a meter put in there, but we never managed to do that.
Right. Right.
They're key places that we.
If we can start with that, I mean, that seems affordable. 5 well-placed $5,000 meters might be a good place to start.
Our village would not be as problematic as the Cuyahoga Heights, obviously. Their system is a spider network. Ours is not nearly that extensive.
And the least expensive option that Don mentioned is an informational campaign. Typically, I find outreach to be something just slightly above a lost cause, but in this case, it's something I never think about. And I don't think anyone thinks about this. Water just seems like, I know we pay a water bill, but doesn't it seem like you just turn on the tap and it magically shows up? And then you flush it away and it magically disappears. So it's actually an area where there's a huge learning curve. Like the fact that it has an impact, it might actually be a campaign that's worth doing, just because no one knows anything about it.
Right.
Saying.
We had a small campaign a couple of years ago where John put something on our website, and I think it was communicated in paper mail, but I'm not sure about where I&I comes from. And like you got illicit connections from roof lines or yards into the sewer system rather than a stormwater system or a ditch, and those are illegal. But finding those is very
Has
difficult.
the Village of Hugo Heights had success with their sump pump certificate program?
I don't,
Where if you
they didn't
sell,
mention it, and I don't know.
yeah, because every property that gets sold in the Village of Hugo Heights, Brent has to go out and check to see if there's discharge.
I had heard that, but I don't know how successful that is. I have not heard. That would be a question.
That's a good idea, too, just per sale.
Yeah, every sale, you have to get it.
Yeah, John has found a number of houses in the village in Lansing that have the roof drains tapped into the sewer.
Yeah. So, no, those are good ideas.
How does that, underground? The roof drain goes underground, or
No,
just,
you have gutters, right?
Yeah.
There's a downpipe.
yeah?
The downpipe, instead of going out in the lawn, goes down into the sewer system.
Right.
It just means that there's like a sewer, there happens to be a sewer drain right there,
Oh, it goes into,
They're routing it to the
Into
sewer
the home
purposefully.
sewer.
into the house.
Yeah,
in the house.
We had that situation, I think it's been remedied, maybe, at East Point.
oh, really?
Well, John remembers. They 3 times, it was my belief, was a quick build. 3 times contractors came in and tried to correct the I&I. Because they looked at the bills and like, what? You know, things didn't make sense. So they scoped and monitored, and I think the stormwater pond cleanup, that helped some.
Okay.
There was runoff from Transact up there. They came in and fixed that. Between the buildings, there was an area that wasn't draining properly. You know, they had plugged sewer lines, septic systems, and even I said, how about we do how NYSEG does the periodic shower head, you know, low flow. You know, well, that's a good idea. It goes nowhere.
Well, nobody wants to do that.
I'm happy to buy my own, but to install it as a tenant,
Right,
their maintenance staff won't install
if you
it.
buy it.
They'll install it. And I'm not going to install it. I mean, it just puts a roadblock.
So if this homeowner's drain is going into the sewer line, they are paying for the water, like they're,
Not rainfall.
why would they not be paying for the sewer?
The rain.
You don't
you're not
pay when it
paying-
goes
You're
out.
not paying for
It's
the rain.
based on how much water you use.
Yeah,
It doesn't, it only goes, you only measure it coming in, you don't measure it going out?
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
So East Point is just one small example, and
Yeah.
who knows what everybody else is doing. I mean, if you're a responsible homeowner.
Those installations are also done as cheaply as possible,
Yep.
which means it's got holes in it.
yeah, seals aren't,
Done very well.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's a big problem, and I agree, it's something I didn't know about until I started.
so it sounds like this meeting was just kind of an informational session, or they trying to take your temperature, or?
Well, yeah, they were trying to take my temperature, I think they were taking the temperature to see if the Village of Lansing would build another Klein Road bypass, and I just said, no, I don't think we will. I think that we will pay our portion of it, but we will
Yeah.
not pay for it.
Yeah.
Isn't the loan-
bypass is quite a bit more expensive than Klein Road.
Yeah.
And Klein Road is, I don't know, a couple of blocks long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost nothing.
Yeah, it's a much longer diversion line, so it would be more expensive.
So is the bottom line, is Village of Hugo Heights looking for a long-term fix or short-term fix?
Both, I think. You know, the best solution, short-term solution would be find all the I and get it fixed. But that's really turning into a long-term. The Remington Road bypass would kind of be an intermediate project, because you would have to set it up and then go to bid and.
But then we're looking at years. This isn't like,
No, not.
But
there's nothing
long-term.
Long-term, yeah.
there needs to be a new expansion.
Yes,
a building
I agree.
next to
I agree with you, Susan, long-term, I'm supportive
It's
of
also
the
Combined
extension.
with,
Lowry, it's the
Yes,
so it's the Lowry property, correct?
yes, yes.
Yes, all right, I got it.
Yeah.
And
Long history.
the extent that the neighboring property is available is not always going to be the case, so.
It has been on the market for, I think they said 2 years. And the problem with it is right next door to a sewer plant. And you've got this ugly plant, and it's a smelly plant, and people don't want the property to build on.
and it's a fairly steep hillside.
Yeah, yeah, so there are problems with it. And so that's why they're going to negotiate for a lower price. They have not started the negotiating, they're talking about it, they've been talking about it for a year at least. I think they need to pull the trigger and plan on that being a long-term fix.
If they were to say tomorrow, let's buy that land for, say, 600,000, and everybody pays their fourth, or their proportionate share, how would we then come up with our proportionate share?
That's my question for you, is how do we have to take in more, we have to take in more funds from our sewer accounts and put them in our reserve.
Can we do that for the specific, can we just say like, okay, it's now 50 cents more, and that money is going towards this property purchase? Is that all copacetic?
It goes into a sewer fund that you're going to use to solve the problem.
Okay.
Whether that's,
Yeah,
Whatever that
it is.
Whatever the problem is.
It is possible for us to do this. How much, I don't know. But at the same time, we need to let our residents know, our bill payers know why we're doing it. And
Right.
same, so that can probably be like a campaign where these are things we're doing for long-term sewer usage. The price of these are obviously going to be very expensive due to the current cost of things, but what you can do as a resident is look for ways of using less water or having less water go into the sanitary sewer system by checking for illicit connections and removing those connections. I don't know what kind of a response we will get from that. I think people will just ignore it because their water's turning on and it's flushing away.
and it's not very expensive. I mean, it's actually very cheap
It is,
in terms of all the things you have to pay to keep a house working.
yeah. And
That's the other problem.
two important functions of a house is water coming in and sewage going out, so it is real.
Start talking about it now.
Yes.
When we come back and say, we need money for this, we'll say, well, we've been talking about this for quite a while, we really need to reduce or create more capacity. Those are the only two options.
Right.
But in my memory, and Don was maybe here since I've been here, there's always been a problem. I was part of that sewer moratorium, and it left, it wasn't good,
No. No.
because you can't fix it. I mean, we have builders, people wanting to build,
Yeah.
and they start, but until you apply for your sewer permit, you don't know. You've got a building that's up.
No, you have to get your sewer permit before you get a building permit.
But still, you got the lot
You
investment,
purchase the property and, yeah, that's.
the expense.
It's not like gas versus propane where there's an option, like if you can't hook up to gas, okay, you have to have propane, it's not ideal, but there's a way forward.
you can do
Without
septic.
sewer, there's no way forward, you can still do septic.
Well, it depends on your
Not
lot.
at how big of you can't do a development on septic.
And how close it is to the lake.
Yes.
There are some state regulations.
And we've been, I don't know, this got to be longer than 30 years? I don't know. How many years? It's been, this is not a new issue. And just because now we're talking about it, because it seems to me we're at the crisis point, because of I&I and the building and climate, and, I mean, look at the fire and what it did to the water connection at Pembroke.
Right, yes. And that failure is not uncommon when there's a fire, because if you're flowing through any type of an aged system, the water pressure coming in, and also when they turn that valve off, the water's still coming, and it can just, it blows the.
And it did.
Yeah, so it's a very common problem. It's not unusual, but.
And then
we're
we
fortunate.
look bad because we know there's a problem and we're not actively. I mean, I would much rather being faced with, we know this about that, and we're taking corrective.
That's why you always have to keep updating your infrastructure.
Right.
You can't just let it go and
And
wait.
And I think sometimes it's easy, as Don says, you turn on the faucet.
And cheap.
It works
Yeah.
until it doesn't.
Yeah, and the thing that I want,
Call Jody.
thing I also wanted to bring to your attention, I don't know if you paid attention to the slides, the sewer fund debt, the Village of Cayuga Heights. These charges are all from their prior and current projects. The money that they're having to pay back is going up dramatically. That means that our sewer rents are going to go up just because their money, the money that they need. We will have, if we want to build up our sewer fund, we've got to add additional money, take in additional money on top of this. So,
And that is why you have a local law that's coming at the next Monday meeting, increasing your sewer rents.
Right.
And it is going up because the water rate did go up.
yes,
So
yeah,
it is going up.
But it's not going up enough to sort of nest egg us?
Well, it depends what kind of nest egg you want. We have to look at what our reserves are, what kind of nest egg you want, and then we can calculate.
yeah, that's
How
the,
much money costs if you have to borrow to fix it,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, if you can find it. So, but this shows that we can expect fairly significant sewer rent increases from the Village of Cayuga Heights in the next,
But that's okay, because that's what we pass through, whoever's using it, it's passing through to them.
exactly right.
So, I mean, we have seen significant increases already in the last few years from the Village of Cayuga Heights.
Yes. So,
It's an old plant, and it's falling apart, and so they're fixing it.
yeah, they're building the boat as they're sailing the boat, sort of.
Right. Well, you're patching the holes as you're getting across.
That's true. So anyway, this is just the start of the discussion. We kind of have to wait until the plans gel from the Village of Cayuga Heights, when we get a better feel for how much money is going to be needed and how much our contribution will be. We can start thinking about what type of increases we need to make to our sewer fund to build the reserve. We can actually spend, if they're going to take a while to make and I say they, the Village of Cayuga Heights with the group of 6, which is the communities that are using them, make a decision, we'll know, but until then, we can still build up our reserve a little bit, so it's not such an immediate impact. It's something that,
Well, we can forecast.
yeah,
I mean, you've started.
yeah, so that was the reason I brought it up. And as soon as I have information from these meetings about which direction to go, I will let you know. I think that when they do pull the trigger on these, if not when they do, or at least near to when they pull the trigger, we will have them come in and present to us and record it, and that we can point our residents to that video to let them understand what projects will be happening. So,
Are your meetings that the group of 6 have, are there minutes to those meetings? Are those recorded?
I haven't seen minutes.
Yeah, there's,
Because it would rather make more sense to me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's fairly loose. I've never seen minutes. It doesn't mean that they don't, someone doesn't take the minutes, but they've never distributed them.
It would be very helpful to know what the group of 6.
I will make that recommendation.
I mean, if it's information and to understand what's going on and not just hear in terms of thinking about community and what's our surrounding when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, Lansing and Ithaca. And
Yeah, there are 5 municipalities plus the Ithaca, plus Ithaca.
yeah, okay, there's 6.
Dryden.
Yes, Dryden.
Dryden.
I always forget about Dryden.
Town of Dryden, yeah. So, anyway, that was what I wanted to present tonight, so.
The last ones I saw for the commission was September 2023 on the Bolton Point website,
Yeah, that's the water.
commission meeting.
Yeah, that's the Bolton Point meetings. Yeah, but for the group of 6, I've never seen minutes. And
Just curious.
they do,
Group of 6 is an ominous name.
Yeah, it really is.
well, sometimes it's the gang of 5. We don't include Ithaca, that's when it gets dangerous.
You need some kind of weird acronym, like DARCOC or something, like Quio.
As a final note, I'm willing to help in whatever way I can.
Thanks, Don, I appreciate it. Probably some historical layout.
Came to the right meeting.
I wasn't
think this-
expecting this.
Oh, really? When you walked in, I was like, oh, Don's gonna tell us about sewer rates.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Don, I appreciate that, I really do. So the next thing on the meeting tonight are my comments. My comments were involved at the beginning in this discussion. The only thing I have is to tell people that tomorrow's election day, and if you haven't voted, go out and vote. So beyond that, nothing else tonight. Oh, yeah, I did mention Siren. I was going to mention Siren. I was going to recommend that you all sign up for that. It comes in handy. And they don't text you thousands of text messages, but they do tell you when roads are going to be closed in the county.
No,
You're gonna be
it's
traveling,
good.
to avoid the
So
roads.
when the cloud of what looked like smoke, when I looked out, I got a siren message. I thought,
How do you sign up for that? And that sounds like something our municipality
Texting a
should get
number.
involved in. It's in reporting our own stuff, too.
As far as submitting things, yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that. I don't think there's a problem with it. It's online. If you just go to Tompkins County, search for Tompkins County Siren, there's a link,
Yeah.
and it's easy to sign up. It's very easy.
Text Siren to 77295.
Oh, that's even
So I
better.
signed up on Friday.
You did too, we both did. That's funny.
Well, I was listening to the police scanner.
Carolyn asked me, I wasn't sure because I had signed up for it when it first started, but I don't know how long it took before I started receiving messages, but I'm glad that it was almost immediate.
Well, at 7, I wasn't concerned. At 9 o'clock, I was concerned. It was quite smoky at my house. So I was like, okay, what is the procedure when there's an evacuation order? I just got curious about it. So I asked Ronnie.
Yeah, so, yeah. that's good.
There was a fair amount of stuff on the internet that said, my tenants across the street, she was up in Syracuse, she had her dog still in the house, she was texting me,
On Siren.
on just
Facebook
internet.
and stuff.
Social media
Yeah.
type,
Yeah.
yeah.
I see.
And they called my daughter, and she went and got the dogs for them,
Oh.
and she was in Auburn at the time.
Right.
So, and I called Pat to make sure she was okay, and that's when I found out about the kids.
Yeah, I knew they were there too, because I saw Pat. I just called my firefighter friends and asked them for the inside story. They were helpful. They were like, you can stay put, it's fine.
Yeah. And Deborah and I were sitting on the sofa, and she was communicating county, and I was communicating village a little bit. The way the evacuation works, if you're interested, is the director of the emergency response would tell the Department of Emergency Response to send out an evacuation order to a specific area. They have their areas defined, and they have all of the emails and phone numbers for people who live within that area. And they can send out a blanket phone message, text and voice, that says an evacuation order has been triggered, therefore you will leave your home and go to such and such and such place. So we were concerned, and I wasn't sure, do you have to be signed up on Siren to get the evacuation notice?
Yeah.
No, you do not. Okay. They know your phone numbers. So that's comforting information, not so comforting information, but they do have a way of communicating with you. So.
But there's also a lot of stuff on the web that was wrong in terms of
Yeah, so there's also the village drumbeat, apparently, that gets you. So, around the table, Kathleen, got anything tonight?
No meeting since the last one.
Okay. Okay,
Nothing.
Susan?
Just youth services. They're really looking at how they're spending their money and what programs produce results. So they're looking to, by the end of '25, to gather enough information to have a new, what I call a comprehensive plan for where money's spent within the county
Okay.
on youth services program, at the effect of COVID and
Right, yes.
homeless, and an emphasis on youth who are homeless, 18 to 25-year-olds. There's a good, there will be, they hope, services available for them, but younger, there's nothing, because they're not 18.
Right.
So I was happy to hear that. So nothing else there. Quio met with a presentation, and their minutes are, I sent them to you.
Yes.
So, nothing else?
Okay. Carolyn?
The comp plan committee met, and as you guys know, we have a good resident response to our survey, but maybe our business needs a lot more work. Kathleen's volunteered to hit businesses in person, and Susan as well, and they're going to be hopefully helping out us get more response from businesses. Again, though, if you do have friends in the village who haven't filled out the resident response, please directly request that they do that. The Trails Committee for Lansing meets all the time, so yes, there was meeting. Right now, we're working on the draft RFQ for the comprehensive trails plan, and so that's going through a couple of different drafts. And
That's going through the town of Lansing,
the
right?
towns, yeah, for the town. And I was going to mention a third thing, but I'm drawing a blank right now. With regard to the resident surveys, there was a lot of written in comments, and some of them are about very specific, small fixes to certain things. Like the example I had mentioned to Kathleen was bikers were saying that when they're making a certain left turn, the bike doesn't trigger the left turn signal, so they have to wait for a car to be able to make the left turn, et cetera. But anyways, there's a bunch of small sort of infrastructure issues that I was gonna maybe collate and raise with John at the next staff meeting, if that's, just like, this is a small thing that someone said, can we,
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt if you get those, just put them together a list, distribute the list to us.
Well, I have it all together in a list because the Google Docs collates everything for you, but it's not really organized, it's just as the people wrote them. So I'm just gonna go through them and see which ones are like infrastructure related and see if there's anything that we can just take care of.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we can take care of but at least then we'll be aware that bikers are having this issue on this road. So I just want to be aware of the small things that people have raised.
Yeah, I never thought about that. But
No.
yeah, the bike's not heavy
It's not.
enough to trigger that.
Yeah. So a couple little things like that. So I'll raise those at the noon meeting if there's time. That's it.
Thanks, Carolyn. Is there anything else for tonight? And I will move to adjourn. I need a second.
Second.
Susan seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And Bob. Don, thanks for coming in. See you.
I have this.